In this video, I'm going to share some samples made with product from the Boho Indigo Product Medley on page 9 of the catalog. Here's a card that's using lots of different product in the medley. I'm going to give you some of the tips and how I created this card. First of all, I'm going to show you that I've stamped on one of the die cuts in the product medley. I have always struggled with card kits that provide these. I love them, but I do not stamp straight. So I tend to not use them very often, but now that I have a Stamparatus, I actually love these. I have placed the 6x6 in the corner of the Stamparatus, placed magnets down to hold it. Now I'm taking one of the sentiments that is in the stamp set, and I'm going to place this down in the vicinity that I want it to go, and leave it like that. Bring this plate down and pick it up. Now what I'm going to do is actually pick up the plate, and I know I probably don't have it straight, but I can hold on one end, look at the stamp along the grid on the plate to get that stamp to go straight now. Now I can put this back in the Stamparatus. I can ink the stamp up, and I can tell that it's not very straight I got better lighting. There we go. Hopefully this one's gonna work. Just tap, tap, tap the ink on, bring the stamp down, apply a little bit of pressure there, and now I have stamped that straight. I actually like this so much better by using the Stamparatus with the 6x6 die cuts. I have much better success stamping straight with that. The other thing I want to share with you is you only get 10 yards of each of these ribbons. That seems like a lot, but we've got a lot of designer series paper, 48 sheets of 6x6, and if you're like me and like to make bows and use ribbon, this is going to probably go faster than I wish, because I will not be able to purchase any more of that unless I buy the entire medley again. So what I like to do is just cut a small piece of it. I'm going to use this as a tag, place this in the opening for the tag, and then what I've purchased are these clear rubber bands. They're small ponytail rubber bands, and Jan gave me this tip years ago. Now just pretend you are putting a ponytail in and just go back and forth, twist your band. I don't worry at the beginning that it's not really straight, because then what I do is I take both tails, just pull on them, the rubber bands come down, collect. Now that's a great way to utilize your ribbon to make it go further. And actually in this case, I really am going to waste some because I cut this sample piece too big. But that's a tip to maximize your ribbon. So I wanted to share that. Then the other tips I wanted to share are the multiple different ways you can adhere your greenery pieces to your card. I love using mini glue dots. Mini glue dots come in a box, and they have mini glue dots on here that you can just bring your item right to the mini glue dot and pick it up. I want to advise you to tie a ribbon or a twist tie around here to keep this on here so it doesn't expose your mini glue dots, so they last a little bit longer and they don't stick to everything. I love them. They're really sticky. The other way adhesive you can use is you can use the fine tip glue. It's got a fine tip on it. You can apply glue just in the fine areas you want to. You can apply glue by doing the same thing with the multi-purpose glue. A lot of crafters like using the multi-purpose glue because it's a little bit more forgiving and lets you adjust things a little bit before you drop it into place. So you can just put a dab here and there. How I actually like using it is putting it on my silicone craft sheet. I just put some on here. I take a section of a stamping sponge. They come circular. I just cut them in smaller pieces. I tap my sponge into the glue. I place it down like so, and then I just tap all the way around here, get the glue on, and then I like to place that down on my project. And then this is permanent. You just need to hold it down, burnish it a little bit, and just give it a few seconds to adhere. This will dry and it will peel right off. Cleans up really nice. I just saved this sponge for glue, and you can keep reusing it. So those are different ways you can adhere that. I want to show you a little bit closer this little vase on here. I don't know if you can tell, but I added something on here to make it look like more porcelain, and that is the multi-purpose sheet. That is another way you can adhere items to. The multi-purpose adhesive sheet comes in 6x12 sheets of adhesive, and you receive 12 of these in a package. There's 6x12, as I mentioned, and there's 3 strips of adhesive on here. So what you could do is cut a strip of this, put it, peel it off and put your garden green, and then cut it out, and then your adhesive is on the entire back of that. That's typically how you use it, and a great way to use it. I actually use this adhesive sheet to create that porcelain look. So what I'm going to do is show you how I did that. I took the adhesive, and I first of all took the vase that I wanted to cut, and made sure that my piece of designer series paper was big enough. And actually this is larger than I need it to be, but I'm going to go ahead and show you this piece. Then I cut a piece of that multi-purpose adhesive sheet, this very same size. Now I'm going to just move this out of the way because I'm going to bring in the Simply Scoring tool. This is one of my must-have tools. And oops, it's got a little bit of paper crumbs on it, but that's okay. So what I'm going to do is on this multi-purpose adhesive sheet, when you peel those little tabs off, those are the adhesive pieces. I like using this Simply Scoring tool. Hopefully I called it that. And what I'm going to do when you're going to turn this paper porcelain, the adhesive is here. You put the right side down to the adhesive. So I'm going to place this right down onto the adhesive, and then to get this to be long enough, and let me just double check. Let's see, I don't even have to do that because that little chunk is long enough for what I want to do. So I want to cut this out and make sure it's going to cut out like so. So now what I'm going to do is take one of our 6x8 cello bags, and I'm going to cut 1.5 inches off the top. That's the width of this designer series paper that I've got cut. I'm going to set that on my Simply Scoring. I'm going to peel this backing off, and before I peel it off, I'm going to burnish it a little bit, and we are going to place the cello bag all the way up, piece all the way up to the Simply Scoring tool, and I'm using the Simply Scoring tool as my guide to get this to line up straight. So now this paper is adhered to here. I can cut this off, and now I have a shiny designer series paper. Burnish it a little bit, take it to my die cutting machine, cut it out, and then I will have a vase that looks like it's porcelain. It actually works pretty nice. So that's another great way to use your multi-purpose adhesive sheet. When I look at this medley of product, I think of projects for a tea party or a tea event. So one of the things that I made was a little place setting for with a name, and the adhesive I used to do the letters is our new adhesive that is called the foam adhesive sheets. These come in a smaller 4.5 by 4 5/16, and they are very similar to the multi-purpose adhesive sheets, but they are actually foam adhesive. Let me grab a couple over here. So what I did was I cut it down to size that I wanted. I wanted a strip of designer series paper, so I cut my adhesive just slightly smaller than that. Then this is double adhesive on both sides. You're going to peel one side off, put it on the back side of your designer series paper, put your die cuts down. In this case, I spelled out Sally, and I used the new alphabet dies. And to hold those alphabet dies down, once I placed them into place, I ran some washi tape over them to hold them in place, ran them through, and once you cut these out, and any open die, including these faces, would work. You run those through your die machine, then you can peel this side the adhesive off, and then you have foam adhesive letters in this case. If you do this, you're going to have a reversed image, which here is a little treat box. You can put some treats in here for the party, and that's another idea. And to be honest, I kind of struggled a little bit with ideas for this with this medley. So I decided, well, by looking at the medley, there are a lot of greenery pieces. We have other stamps and dies in the catalog that have greenery pieces. So I just looked for samples made by some of my downline that were using different product. And here's a couple samples. One is by Julie and one is by Sandy. And I thought, you know, these ideas would be really great ideas for the greenery parts. So I used their idea, their combination of ideas, and came up with this card idea using a lot of the product in the medley. So when you're not inspired by the product in this medley, just look for other ideas. The other thought that I had was these vases, some of the vases look a lot like a mason jar. So I decided to look to see other samples made by mason jars. This sample is from Beth. So I used this as inspiration. And as I started making this, I decided it'd be a great shaker card. So one of those adhesives in our catalog is the adhesive foam strips. You get several strips, 40 strips in 2 sheets, and these are great for shaker cards. What I've done here, in this I use the same technique I use for the porcelain on this vase. I actually cut this out and I sponged it to look like water here. And when you do your shaker card, I'm not going to go into all the techniques because you can Google and it will show you how to do this. I have this all prepped. My window sheet is adhered with Terri tape. That is our strongest adhesive in our catalog, and it's great for adhering any projects that you're making for like 3D boxes and so forth. And that is an adhesive that's a double sticked adhesive. I've put a window sheet down here. I put the foam adhesive sheets all around the perimeter there. And the beauty of these adhesive sheets are, with the shaker card, you can start at one point. I would suggest be above where your little shakers would sit, or your images would sit, and go all the way around the perimeter of your project. And then you can take your little inside pieces that you want, and these are little fun jewels from the flowers for every season. Put a few of those in, peel your backings off here, your backings off there, place this down, and you'd place it right into place, and there you'd have your little shaker card. So that adhesive would work great for shaker cards, and this product all works great. So just look for samples with the jar, and you can use the vase. Now with the product medley, at some point you may run out of and use up all your ribbon, all your designer series paper. So then you can continue to look for ideas online or from fellow crafters. And in that case, you can still utilize your dies in your stamp set. Here's a beautiful card made by Denise, one of the Inking of You members. And I just used this concept and just used all of the product medley product and made a card very, very similar to hers. Again, I put the cello bag on that piece of basic gray cardstock so it would look like a jar. And then another sample that I found was another beautiful card by a Inking of You member, Lisa. I absolutely love this card, so I utilized the product that made a card very similar to hers. So if you lose inspiration for ideas with this, just look for other stamp sets that might be a little bit similar to that to find ideas. I have several ideas, but before I show you those, if you haven't noticed, I've been talking about a lot of the adhesives in my presentation, and that was my goal. I wanted to talk to you about all the adhesives that are on page 162. I have talked about most of them, but I have missed a couple of them. I have talked about number 1, the adhesive sheet, the fine glue tip, multi-purpose, mini glue dots, tear and tape. We have a new adhesive called Stampin SEAL. This is taking place of our product that was called Snail. It comes in, you can purchase it with a cartridge, and you can get your refill. The packages will look like this. It is a nice adhesive to use. I will tell you that you have to practice a little bit with it. And I am looking to see where I put my cartridge. Oh, they're right here in front of me. That seems to be what I happen to do all the time. So one of the things is you need to practice with it a little bit. I have found that a light touch, I tend to push too hard, really light touch. And then I have heard that you don't have to do a check mark, but I actually just need to do an ever so lightly check mark. I exaggerated that one. And then if I don't do that, I tend to let it string a little bit. And if for some reason that it stops, don't push down and try to get it started again. Just use your finger to get it going again. But it is a very nice adhesive. I have learned that a light touch will give me much better results. We also have the Stampin SEAL Plus. If you were familiar with the Fast Fuse, it is very much like the Fast Fuse. And I had heard online that someone had said they believed it would fit into your Fast Fuse case. And the Stampin SEAL Plus is very much like our previous Fast Fuse, and it does fit in here. So I'm just going to show you that it does fit in here. Oh, see, like I said, you got to get it started like so. But I will tell you that I have had great success with Fast Fuse with this cartridge until I drop it. Once I drop it, most likely will stop working for me. And the reason it stops working for me, because these little prongs are very fragile. If you drop it and either one of those breaks, it is not going to dispense your adhesive any longer. So the new cartridges, the new holders are much more durable. And I think with a light touch and an ever so lightly, and you need to see if you need to do that check mark. I need to do that check mark. The only other adhesive that I have not talked about on here are Dimensionals, and I'm surprised I haven't, because those are something that I use for everything. We have mini, standard, and then we have black. Black comes in both mini and standard. You get 2 sheets of each. And whenever you get these little side pieces like that, use those. Just don't throw those away. You can cut those off. And the last adhesive to talk about is an adhesive that is called a cling adhesive. What this is for is if you have an older style stamp that has the called clear, that does not have adhesive here, what you can do is take the backing off 2 of these pieces here, right in the center, bring your stamp image down, and now you have a sticky adhesive there that will stick to your clear block. So that's what these are. I believe I have covered all the adhesives on page 162, so you have an idea on how they're being used. And I have one more video to share with you, and it is going to give you an idea on how to use the 6x6 papers to create multiple different cards using just the refill of the Boho Indigo Product Medley refill. So stay tuned for the next video, and I will share the details for this